bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place.
Ready? Right.
This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go. Go.
And a good morning, Birds fans. Welcome in to Birds 365. It's the Mac Show, but John McMullen is winging his way back from Indianapolis. He is well covered for by our big guy, Barrett Brooks. You hear him later in the day on Sports Take. You see him on NBC Sports Philly. I got a wardrobe question for him. But first things first, Barrett Brooks. A win is a win, and you take it any way you get it, but I was worried about coming on here and talking about back-to-back Eagle losses right up until Jalen Hurts scampered into the end zone with that touchdown. Hey, 9-1 is 9-1, and I'm not going to start the day by going, oh, my God, the Eagles were lucky. They weren't lucky. They earned the win, but it wasn't exactly a dominating victory, was it?
No, it wasn't. But in looking at the game, at no point did I think that this team was going to win that game.
Right.
I'm just, just to be serious about it. I knew that this was going to be a tough fight. I knew that also they were going to try to run the ball on them, and they tried. They tried their best, but eventually the Eagles, Eagles start stopping the run, which is point in the right direction. The first drive, Indianapolis went down the field, ran the ball as they pleased. And I saw Linville Joseph and I saw Sue really go out there and control the line of scrimmage. It's just getting those linebackers at that point to really get used to what was going on in front of them so they can start reading better. And once they realize, oh, I can run around here and not have somebody up on my chest, that's when things changed. Those space eaters in the middle of that defense turned the game around and started controlling the interior of the line, and now they can run and make plays as opposed to have an offensive lineman in their chest trying to make plays. So once they got a rhythm of, oh, we're protected, it changed the whole outcome of how those linebackers played and how the defenses played.
Yeah, because that first drive, Jonathan went right through them like a hot knife through butter.
Yes,
and I'm going,
yes.
Oh, man, this is picking up right where it left off last week. The Eagles can't get off the field. They can't stop the run. This could get ugly today.
Right.
But you're right. Sue and Linval Joseph came in. I thought the whole startup course thing, anyone who now tells me, you got to get them up to speed. Or maybe you just throw them in there and say, go get them, big guys, is the way to go, because they surely did that yesterday. The whole tenor of the game changed after that first drive. I was severely nervous when the Colts went right down the field the way they did. But to the Eagles' credit, on defense specifically, they stuck by it. They changed the tenor of the game, and they played dynamite defense. After that first drive, Colts didn't score another touchdown, limited to field goals the entire rest of the game. That's a pretty good job out of Jonathan Gannon's.
Absolutely. Those guys have to learn to play together. Now, I'll tell you what. Linville Joseph is a man in the middle of that defense. Whoever was trying to block him, he would take him and reestablish an offensive line. Reestablish the line of scrimmage 2 or 3 yards back every single time they tried to block him. Now it's just an adjustment for the defense. They're like, all right, we can fly around now. And that was the biggest thing. I was thinking this, those guys, since they've been on the couch watching football next to me, I thought they would go in and they would only get like 10 to 12 reps maybe on first and second down. Heck, they played the rest of the game. I can't believe how good a shape they are. Defense is harder to play than offense as it pertains to on the line of scrimmage. But they fought and scratched, and they were in great shape. Great shape to go out there and play an entire game.
Joseph ended up playing 40% of the snaps at defensive tackle. Dominican Sue a little less at 26. But you're right. They threw them both into the deep end of the pool and said, guys, we know you know how to swim. You're both 13-year veterans. Believe us, it's not all that difficult. Our scheme, you might need to know a little terminology, but
that's it.
Go out there and do what you do. That's
exactly what they did. They had to know where they had to be. The terminology is different, but once it's like riding a bike when you're a veteran guy like that. All right, get up there and control him, kick his ass, and we'll be good. And that's exactly what they did. They just told him, "Hey, you see that guy in front of you? Beat those two, so those guys behind you can go make plays." And I tell you what, you were one of them. Now talking about, oh, we need to get the Kobe Dean out there. I kept telling you guys, no. We don't need the Kobe Dean right now. They have a man back there, TJ Edwards.
Timeout, Barrett Brooks. I said that before, and Dominican Sue and Edward Joseph never showed up. I didn't say that after those guys were added, and I wanted to see what they could step right in and do. And damn if they didn't answer that question by playing as well as they did. No, when you're going with Marlon Tuipulotu in the middle, and you're getting carved and diced up like the Eagles had been the last 3 weeks, it wasn't that ridiculous an idea to say, can we get another live body in there to stop the run?
I knew that we couldn't get him because they don't play a defense where they have 3 linebackers on the field. So if he came in, it would have to take one of those other linebackers out. And I knew we couldn't. Dean couldn't go in there and play at the level that TJ Edwards could play. TJ Edwards is playing at a phenomenal level. TJ Edwards might be the defensive MVP the way he's playing right now. I mean, he had 10 tackles yesterday. He had 2 tackles for loss.
Phenomenal.
He was flying around. I just knew that he wasn't being protected. Like when they have a lead, you have to pass the ball and you can sprinkle run in, and he can go make plays when it's like that because you don't worry about the effects of having double teams on them. But when you know a team's gonna run the ball and they can get those double teams and get off on the linebackers, it's just tough sledding for those linebackers. Now they got to fight off a block and go make a tackle. You saw yesterday, they weren't fighting off blocks. They were running scot-free and going making plays around that offensive line and beating those guys up front.
All right, since you went there, I guess I'm going to have to defend my position again. Are you telling me that when the other team has 2 tight ends on the field, one of which is probably not a pass-catching tight end, more of a blocking tight end, you'd rather have Josiah Scott on the field as your nickelback than Nakobe Dean as an extra linebacker when a team is playing a 2 tight end set and the probabilities are they're going to run the football?
Absolutely not, Jody. I just know that our D coordinator, Gannon, is not going to do anything. He's not going to he's going to line up Josiah Scott, or he's going to put safety? What safety would you put on? Would you put
either Chauncey Gardner or Marcus Epps, either one?
I think they'll keep Epps back for.
Oh, they'll keep them both on the field. He plays 5 DBs on almost every snap of the game.
And which is why I say we're not going to have another linebacker unless we take somebody out. He refuses to play 3 linebacker scheme. He doesn't trust.
Does that make it right?
No.
Just because Jonathan Gannon says so, and he's locked you into his belief that we need 5 defensive backs on the field for every single snap, does that make it right?
It's absolutely right. Conceptually, it's actually wrong because you could put Kazir White on any tight end or running back in the league, and he can cover him. The ex-safety, he's good enough to cover him. Then you just put Nakobe Dean in the box at the will linebacker. Now you have 2 really good linebackers in the middle of that defense who are probably better run scrapers than Kazir White, trying to stop the run, as opposed to, leaving Kazir White back there and putting a safety up there. You just got more beef. I would love to do that, but conceptually, we're just not going to do it. Gannon will refuse to do that. I would love to do that because Kazir White can cover anybody and come up and play the run, but we're just not going to do that. So I'm not going to talk in a fantasy world where that would be the greatest thing we could do. take out Josiah Scott and put him and set him down next to somebody on the bench, and then bring in N'Kobe Dean, line him up in the middle of that defense, and then put Kazir White on those tight ends. That'd be the greatest thing since sliced bread, man.
Well, and I don't even it would be the greatest thing, but it's something that should at least be considered. And you're right. I don't think they even consider it. That they are so entrenched in the way that they play defense with 5 defensive backs on every single play. They're not going to change their mind. Doesn't mean I can't keep bringing it up and keep pointing to the fact that I'm not sure this is the way to do it. And I will continue to do that. Now, I will do it less if Linval Joseph and Dominican Sue played the way that they did for the rest of their time here in Philadelphia. Because, yes, when you're not getting diced and sliced up front, you don't worry about having an extra defensive back out there. When you're getting the defensive tackle pressure and bringing the backs in, bringing the linebackers in untouched in to stop the run, and Edward can play the kind of game that he did yesterday. Oh yeah, I'll stop suggesting it. I'll put it in the back of the freezer and forget that it's there. But it doesn't mean that I can't bring it up from time to time and go, okay, you know, this Eagles system does invite the other team to run the ball. Now they did. First possession, right down the field, 7 carries, 49 yards for Jonathan Taylor at 7 yards a clip. And I was worried the heck out of the Eagles' possibility to win the game. But damn, if they didn't stop the run thereafter, they were tremendous against it after the first drive of the game. So Jonathan Gannon gets to look at me and either wink or shake his head and go, "Shut up, McDonald." Yes, for the final 3 quarters of the game, the Eagles defense did the job because they got what they needed to get out of the defensive tackle position.
They played so well, man, and it put a fire. It lit a fire underneath Cox. You know, Cox didn't have to play as much, so he had more energy to play. I know he was bitching about, you know, playing 70 snaps this last game, but to get paid to do, you got to do that, man. This time, you know, he played a lot less snaps. He was a lot more effective. He took on double teams. He didn't turn his back on anybody. He played pretty well. You know, I must admit that he did what he had to do, man, which was a sign and a point in the right direction. Now he sees that, all right, he got some hammers in there with him. You know, Dominican Sue, they put him out there defensive end. He was rushing the passer, man. He looked pretty good being out at that 4-eye or you know, head up over that tackle. I mean, he had some juice in him. You know, so how long will his juice last? We only needed to last, 8 more games?
Right. Regular season into the playoffs, because we know that's exactly where the Eagles are going.
Exactly.
And we do, before we get our first guest up here, Paul Donowitz is going to join us in less than 10 minutes. How about Jalen Hurts? Not having a great day. The passing game wasn't all that efficient. Miles Sanders wasn't running it all that well. They got 3 points through the first 3 quarters. And Jalen Hurts doesn't look one iota phased out there. He's in complete control of the game. When needed, he takes off and made the play. Made a couple out of failed passing attempts. He made a couple of designated running attempts, including the touchdown, which was absolutely a brilliant call by Sirianni. Man, this kid is growing before our very eyes and is a very legit MVP candidate. And yesterday's 2 late touchdown drives just add to what is becoming a pretty fast-growing legend here in town.
He showed me something. You know, he's been showing me something. I heard Charles Davis, the announcer, that he said, you know, if he wins this game, will put him up with the upper echelon quarterbacks. And I had kind of a gripe with that because I thought he was already up there with the upper echelon quarterbacks. It's just everybody else is seeing what we've seen for a long time now.
Right.
For this season. He's playing at an MVP level. So we've already seen this. But I think this game kind of showed the rest of the nation how good Jalen Hurts is. And I told you last week, and a lot of people, that we need to see those intangibles. Yes, you know, he's a quarterback, and we got to protect quarterbacks. But it just doesn't make him it doesn't make him very effective. Well, it makes him less effective when you don't use him in his dual threat capacity. He's the guy that you have to use that uses legs as kind of a counter to any defense's counter. You can't blitz him. because if you let him go, that's another defender that won't be able to make it up. And once he gets past the line of scrimmage, and when you blitz, you got to go man. Everybody turns their back. The people covering turn their back and just guard their man. And now he can go out there and make plays. So if you let him pass the initial surge of the blitz, he's going to run. And his effectiveness as a runner makes it as though you're not defending 10 people on the field like you usually do. Usually when you have a quarterback, a statue back there, like you saw yesterday from Indianapolis, you only have to defend 10 people on the field. But with Jalen in there, you have to defend all 11 guys. When you do that, you got to allocate resources to wherever he is and what he's doing. On that last play on the touchdown he put, watch how Kelsey influenced block. He didn't even really have to block anybody, but his influence and Jalen Hurts' legs made that play because it was regular inside zone. What they did was Seumalo blocked down. Kelsey's so good, pulls around, and that guy that was supposed to spy the quarterback and play the run, follow Kelsey, because usually it's like Kelsey's follow the bouncing ball. Was follow the bouncing Kelsey. Wherever Kelsey goes, the ball is going, and that's exactly what happened. Kelsey pulled around the down block by Seumalo, pulled that linebacker out, and Jalen Hurts could have walked into the end zone instead of pirouetting into the end zone or laying up into the end zone.
It was easy. Not many times can you get misdirection right up the middle.
Right.
But that's exactly what it was. Misdirection up the middle, right in the dead center of the field, which was, again, a very well-designed play. Great read by Jalen and quick reaction to get into the end zone, even with a little pirouette, as you say, right there at the end, which was perfectly fine. He had that much room that he could decide exactly how he wanted to go into the end zone. And more power to him.
I could have ran in there. I could have ran into the end zone. That's how big the hole was, man.
Maybe. And I got no issues with Steichen about using Jalen as to when to run. I get what they're attempting to do. It's like having an ace in your back pocket. And if you don't have to play it and you can save it for another hand, you do just that. You don't just want to throw it out there to show it off and to brag. You just keep it in your back pocket and you reach for it and you play it when you need it. Well, guess what? The Eagles needed it yesterday. They weren't doing things offensively. A couple of tough turnovers. Jalen got blindsided by a hit and coughed it up. A.J. Brown, I'll ask about that later. What the hell happened on that play? He just looked so tremendously tentative, like he was waiting to get hit. That's not A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown looks to hit somebody else.
Right.
Swell Batman was not all that swell on that play. He was swelling up to drop the football, which I didn't get. But they overcame all that because when they needed it, they could go to Jalen Hurts, pulling the football down, taking off, unaccounted for, making plays with his legs, and on a couple of them, getting the extra yards. Absolutely. You want to see your quarterback go down and protect himself, live to throw another day. But he knew on the plays they needed to get more yards. He did just that, was willing to put his body at risk.
Love it, man. And I sit next to, Jaws, quarterback, played a long time in the league. I respect his opinion. I respect him. And he said the same thing. We were going through it, in the pregame show on Eagles pregame live. And, he was like, nope, I don't want to see Jalen Hurts get hit. I don't want him to run the ball as much as he's been running it. I said, but that's just the nature of how Jalen Hurts is. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, he has a 600-pound squat. He's not the average quarterback, but he's still a quarterback. And I understand that. But he knows how to stay healthy. He knows how to keep from, getting hit and being in harm's way. There was a couple of times he could have ran for the first time himself, but he stopped, dropped, and rolled. And and stopped just before the line of scrimmage, but he did that just to keep from getting hit. We would eventually get the first down on third down, but those are the type of instances where we're thinking, yeah, you have to protect yourself, and I understand why you just didn't go get the first down. He could have done it, but he didn't do it. He's smart about it. This young man knows how to play the game at a high level. He's never, he never lets you see him sweat. You saw him on the sideline. Everybody else would be like, oh, this is a laissez-faire type of attitude. Why is he sitting there? He's not even worried about it. Well, we just know Jalen, and we understand his demeanor on the field. He has that type of attitude. Like, even when it's, they're doing great and they're playing at a high level, he still maintains that consistent, like, all right, we're chilling. We got a lot we got to accomplish. Let's keep moving forward. And that's the type of, air he gives out to the rest of his teammates also.
Keeps his emotions in check every single play of every single game. He's Barrett Brooks in for John McMullen today. Johnny Mac winging his way back from Indianapolis. We get J Mac back into the mix tomorrow. Coming up next into the mix here with us on Birds 365, one of our stalwart guests. You read him here on JAKIBSports.com, 33rd team as well, longtime Eagle Beat guy. Paul Domwich jumps in next on Birds 365.
Don't wait until after Thanksgiving for leftovers. It's the new leftover sales event at Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downingtown. Jeff must get rid of hundreds of new 2022 vehicles on the lot. Rams, Grand Cherokees, Wranglers. Jeff has them all for less. Jeff has reduced prices and payments to the lowest they've been all year. And Jeff knocks down high interest rates. Save thousands, more than anywhere else. Plus, get more for any trade or lease return. You always win at Jeff's. Great selection, best price. Hurry in now. Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Black Friday sales event.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
At Sal's University, our graduates are among the most highly trained in their profession because of our unique emphasis on research, interprofessional collaboration, and early clinical exposure. Learn more about our programs at salis.edu.
Got your MAGA Mac guys here on Birds 365. Only we're down to Mac today. John McMullen making his way back from Indianapolis. So Barrett Brooks in for him, and joining us for the next 15, 20, 25 minutes is one of our favorite guests. You read him on the 33rdteam.com and his stat package here on JAKIBSports.com. Longtime Eagle Beat guy and green clad reporter. We got our pal Paul Domwich to join us. PD, always appreciate the outfit. I'm jealous because I can't wear that. Barry and I didn't even consult. We got somewhat similar red on today.
Right.
Here's where I want to start. When did you know, Paul Domwich, that the Eagles were going to win that game yesterday?
When Jalen crossed the goal line on that last touchdown run.
Did you? You had no nerves whatsoever when they scored with a minute and change left to go that Matt Ryan couldn't get him into field goal range.
No, I mean, I thought anything was possible. You know, for much of that game, it looked like a game that they were just determined to lose. And I thought maybe that's the way it was going to wind up. But Jalen put him on his back in the fourth quarter and just did an amazing job.
It's funny, we're sitting back at the entirety of the game, and it looked like the Colts just schematically played better than they did in the past, and that kind of threw me for a loop because, I knew they were a run team. And after they stopped that initial drive, I saw the defense start to make that running game sputter a little bit. But, hey, the old Pennsylvania guy still got a little arm on him, man. He still got some moxie in him, man. And, he almost brought him back with how he was throwing. I mean, he made guys that aren't necessarily good look pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, they got some much needed pressure on him at the right time. The 2 sacks by BG and Reddick, especially BG's, it was huge. So it's funny. You look at their sack. I mean, they've got obviously their sacks. They've been much improved this year, but it's been when they've been getting them. They've got 33 sacks. More than half of them have been either on third or fourth down. More than half of them have been in the fourth quarter. So they've been very timely. They've come up with big plays when they've needed them.
That's why I asked the question. I didn't know they were going to win until Brandon Graham got that sack. After that, I was pretty damn confident that they had him in a big enough hole, and then they take a penalty on top of it the next play. 4th and 22. That's optimum for the Colts. Yeah, that I was confident. When Jalen scored, I was pretty damn confident. I was 100% confident after Graham got that sack. And Graham, and you're right, Reddick got not only sacks, but sacks at big times. But it was the entire defensive line yesterday, Damo. Were you as surprised as Barrett and I were that not only did they play Sue and Linval Joseph as much as they did, but they were as effective as they were? Like they had been part of the Eagle defensive line since training camp. Were you surprised by what they were able to get out of their newest acquisition?
Yeah, it was. Now, I haven't seen the snap totals yet, but they certainly played more than I thought they would, and they were much more effective.
Sue played 27%. Joseph played 40% of the snaps.
And, good thing they did because, you saw that first drive, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, it's going to be just like last week. They gave up. I think Taylor had, what was it?
7 for 49.
Yards on his first 2 possessions. Yeah. And then after that, he had 21 yards on his last 12 carries. I mean, they settled down. Joseph and Sue just stiffened in the middle. I think they had a terrific effect on Fletcher Cox, who played probably his best game in a while because he's been invisible. It was everything Howie seems to touch these days turns to gold. And those 2 moves I thought initially might have been overkill, or that neither one would be able to have much left, but both played well.
When you look at TJ Edwards and how he played the game, man, how surprised were you to see the way he played and the level he played at, because we hadn't seen the last 2 games really be that impact player we've seen him be the previous couple of games.
Yeah. Barrett, it's funny. Early in the game, he looked like he was struggling again when Taylor was having his early success. And I tweeted out that, might be a good time to give Nakobe Dean some snaps maybe. Because it just looked like like you said, the last 2 games, Edwards has looked like, he's played so much. He's played like 95% of their snaps. I just thought he was wearing down, and it made no sense to keep him out there for that many snaps when you had a rookie that you're high on. But he turned it around after that and was a key, a key member of that defense for the rest of the game.
Yeah, he was protected. Once you protect him, he can go.
Yeah.
One of the key aspects in yesterday's game, and Eagle fans all get mad at me here, but I'm sorry I'm going there, was the referees. The week before, they had absolutely gotten screwed. The penalty on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a joke. Guy's foot's still in bounds, and he gets hit with a late hit penalty. And then the face mask on Dallas Goedert. How can you possibly miss that? Well, referees miss stuff from time to time. They missed a face mask on Hassan Reddick yesterday, which could have been a fateful blow to the Eagles' cause as if that happened. They actually got a little bit of a break on a slow whistle from the referees on the fumble by Taylor I thought that play was dead in the water, and he just kept going and going and going. And sure enough, Epps strips the ball. Great play by Epps, by the way. And then an easy one by the refs. Miles Sanders down the sidelines gets tackled on an attempted pass. So for those who wanted to blame last week's loss on the referees, and they had their hand in on it, I'm not denying that. Refs kind of did the Eagles a solid yesterday, Damo.
Yeah, early on, you might not have said that with all the penalties the Eagles were drawn, but most of them were warranted. They killed the first 3 drives, I believe. I mean, the illegal man downfield, the holds. But it's funny. The whole game, I was cursing at the TV about. I mean, I thought that without Goddard, that they were going to use their running backs more in the passing game, and that didn't happen until one of the pivotal plays of the game, which you mentioned, the pass interference call. The 39 yards they picked up on when they, on the pass interference against Miles. So I just think that's a wasted. I mean, they've got 2 really good receivers at running back. They need to implement them going forward until they get Goddard back.
That was kind of,
sorry, back. Can I jump in there?
Go ahead.
2 really good wide receivers at running back? Really?
Yeah. Why?
I don't think so.
And
here's the other thing. John and I talked about this last week, and please feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I don't think that's a Jalen strength. Now, the pass to Miles, one of the biggest plays in the game, 39-yard pass. That's, I know, a running back attempting to make it's a 39-yard pass. That's not a screen play. That's not a touch over an oncoming defensive lineman play. I just don't think the screen game is a key a strength of Jalen's game as of right now. And you have much higher evaluation of the Eagles running backs and their ability to catch the football. I think as a trio, they're mediocre at best.
Well, I'm not talking about screens. Kenny Gainwell was a slot receiver half the time at Memphis. That's where they line him up in this offense much of the time when they go to an empty set. I think Miles, his first year as a rookie with the Eagles, had 5 catches of 30 yards or more, which was the second most in the league that year. Austin Ekeler was the only guy with more. I think that pass interference call, I didn't see what he ran, but it looked like a wheel route.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got speed. Miles had 1 year where he couldn't seem to catch a cold. But beyond that, he had 50 catches as a rookie. Gainwell's an excellent receiver. So, I mean, I'm not talking about screens with that. I'm talking about, using them on actual routes and getting them into the passing game that way.
You look at the totality of this team. I still think they got it. They have the best record in the NFL right now, especially with Minnesota losing. There's no way I could have, cheered for Dallas, but I'm glad they did beat Minnesota. But I still think that this team is still the most balanced team in the league right now. If you ask me who's the best team in the NFL, I've said it for the past 5 weeks. Even though with the loss, I said for the past 5 weeks, this Eagles team is the best team because they're more balanced than everybody else. And if they play to their strengths, they're going to be hard to beat. They didn't do it last week against Washington. We get it. Too many penalties, too many turnovers, but fundamentally, they're still the best team in the NFL. What do you think?
I agree. They're certainly the most complete. I think right now, though, I would still, especially after watching them again yesterday, Kansas City, just because that offense is just so unstoppable, regardless of how much time you give them. But their defense isn't as good as Gannon's defense, but it doesn't seem to be the liability it's been in the past for sometimes for Andy. I mean, it's good enough. They get sacks from Chris Jones when they need them. So that'd be the one team, Barrett, that I would say might be at this point better than the Eagles would be Kansas City. But, we're talking about 2 teams that could end up playing in the Super Bowl against each other.
Right.
Yeah, Eagles against Andy Reid. I think some people in this town would like to see that. We've got many weeks to go before we get there, but it is something we have to at least keep the possibility open for. Jalen Hurts' overall performance yesterday, a little bit of a slow start. I thought the Eagles were actually losing the fight at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage, and that never happened. Their offensive line gets better at the defensive line on a week in, week out basis. They didn't for large stretches of yesterday's game, but Jalen Hurts hung in there. I got the one blindside hit, coughed up the fumble. Man, this kid at age 24 years old, both on the field and off the field afterwards when he talks to the media, is about as good a grizzled veteran as I've seen in decades. Damo, where does it come from? Is it the fact that he's a coach's son, that this kid is so well grounded and you don't have to worry about his emotions whatsoever when you're putting together a game plan and then giving him a chance to go out and execute it?
You know, you mentioned the coach's son. I mean, I love kids whose fathers were coaches. It just seems to rub off on them, and it's really rubbed off on him. You know, as well as great as he played yesterday, the moment that really impressed me the most was after he scores, they flashed him on the sideline when the Colts have the ball, and I mean, it looked like his pulse rate was about 30. I mean, he just does not get excited. He just does not get nervous. He's just, you know, he's got that poker face. It's just amazing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I know you guys earlier were talking about, does he run too much? The Jaws was mentioning it, Barrett, on the show. You know, I don't think he does. I mean, I think this is part of his game. It's always going to be part of his game. It's part of, you know, you're seeing it all over the league now. You know, he had 8 rushing first downs yesterday. They had 10 total. He had 8 of them, and they needed every one of them, particularly, you know, that touchdown. I mean, he gets stopped for a 4-yard loss on a blown block right on the play before that. And I'm wondering, like, what are they going to do on this play? What are you going to call? And I never saw that coming. I never saw I didn't expect it to be so easy, but they blocked it beautifully. And you know, Indianapolis seemed to almost cooperate with them and giving them that opening to just take it right up the middle.
That's one of those things where, you know, it's follow the bouncing Kelsey. Wherever Kelsey goes, the ball goes. And they ran an inside zone. They blocked Sayamalu down, pulled Kelsey around. And the guy that really had a spy technique over you know, the quarterback, you know, Hurts, he followed Kelsey, knowing that wherever Kelsey goes, the ball goes. So he's almost like an influence block. He didn't even have to block him. He took himself out the play. I could have ran through that hole. That's how big that hole was, you know. But it just goes to show what his versatility as a dual threat brings to the table. I don't want him to just be a drop back quarterback, even though, you know, y'all want him to be healthy, you know, but I think he's starting to learn to take care of himself. He doesn't allow defense to take shots on him anymore. There were a couple times yesterday where he could have slid for a first down. He could have went and got the first down, but he slid early, didn't get the first down, and I respect him for that because we need to keep him clean. I get it, but that's the dimension that he gives this offense, that you have to allocate resources just to him because he's that good of a threat.
Yeah, I mean, for much of the first half, it appeared the Colts had a spy on him. Second half, I'm not sure exactly what changed. Things opened up for him on some of those scrambles and design plays. You know, the thing about him is, you know, he's not as reckless as Josh Allen when he runs it. I mean, he doesn't think.
Yep.
He's not thinking, you know, nobody can hurt me, even though for the most part they can't. I mean, he's got a fullback body. I mean, the man deadlifts 620 pounds. I mean, those quarterback sneaks are child's play for him, even without somebody pushing him from behind. So, I mean, you know, but and also his kind of play has come at the right time because the league is not going to tolerate hard hits on when you go to slide. I mean, a few years back, guys would still take shots and and quarterbacks would get hurt. Now that's no more. I mean, especially after Tua. So, you know, he's got that extra protection there when he goes down.
Damo, need your take on what transpired yesterday, where the Eagles go forward from here without Dallas Goedert. Stoll got the great majority of the snaps, over 80% of the snaps at tight end. Tyree Jackson and Calcaterra both played some. Both took a bad penalty. Shame on them. And neither one of them got the ball thrown their way. Stoll had one pass, one target, one reception, 7 yards. Dallas Goedert being out of the lineup is one of the reasons why they only put up 17 points yesterday. Are they going to just continue to try and grind it out? Is it going to be more Hurts running rather than throwing to the tight end? That is an injury that the Eagles are going to have a tough time getting over. They did yesterday and found a way to win, but do you see any potential changes in how they use the tight end position until Dallas Goedert gets back?
Yeah, I mean, they use mostly 11 personnel, with just the one tight end. So we didn't see a lot of Calcaterra and the other guy. I mean, it was mostly Stoll. But, again, I think they need to be using their running backs more. It would offset the lack of loss of Goddard. Calcaterra he's going to be a heck of a receiver. We saw that several weeks ago when he had that 40-yard catch. But it takes time for a quarterback to have the kind of trust in a guy that Jalen has in Goddard. I mean, you're not gonna see too many tosses to Calcaterra or Stoll. They need to run the ball more, more earlier. But they need to, they would have had more than 17 points yesterday if not for the fumble by A.J. Brown, if not for the penalties. I mean, they were moving the ball at times. It's just that they kept getting pushed back by their own mistakes. So they need to avoid those, and I think it'll help kind of soften the blow until Goddard gets back.
That's absolutely, man. I mean, I in my prediction last night, I said that, all right, a combined total of all three tight ends would get 100 yards. Well, all they got was a penalty each. That's all they got. And I know this is going to be something that, because a tight end's a quarterback's best friend. I thought Jake Stoll would play better because he's when they go 12 personnel, he's in. If Dallas Goedert needs a break, he's in. This point forward, I do see the running backs becoming better as far as the passing game, but I see them doing more like Texas route, wheel routes, things of that nature, not necessarily screen plays, because they're going to run screens. They like to run screens on the outside, the tunnel screens. And unless you line them running backs out there at that position, I don't think they're going to run those type of screens unless they're out there on a corner and they can run a tunnel screen. They don't believe in the slow.
I mean, they're going to use Quez and Devonta mostly on bubble screens and stuff like that. That's why I said earlier. I see these guys. If you're going to use Sanders and Gainwell, I think it's more, in routes over the middle, slants, things like that, where you can get them out of the backfield, not so much on screens.
Yep.
Damo, you mentioned the A.J. Brown turnover, and I said this earlier with Barrett. He looked tentative on that play for me. And two words I never thought I'd use in the same sentence, A.J. Brown and tentative. He's not a tentative player. He's not a tentative runner. He's a I'll take you on type of runner. But he just seemed like he was waiting to be hit, or he was afraid to be hit on that play. You think he's still hurt? You think the ankle's still bothering him for last week? Because that was completely uncharacteristic of him.
It could be, although I'm trying to remember the hit. It came from behind, didn't it? I mean, he didn't see. He was
kind of sideways. He was at his arm out like he was afraid to get hit. Go back and watch the play again if you get the chance.
It looked like he was trying to make a move on him. He was trying to make a move on the guy in front of him. He had a one-on-one. He was going to try to make a move and then go. And then at the front time, Franklin came in and knocked it out, from the side of, not down, but on the side of him.
I think, you saw that with Quez last week, when he got up after the long catch. they've got to you got to protect the ball. Because people are looking to take it away from you. Maybe they're at a point in their confidence level where they're getting a little bit careless. And I know they talked a lot about it in practice last week. Because what's made this team one of the things that's made this team so successful until last week was the fact that they weren't turning the ball over. Now they're coming back to earth a little bit, and that's going to close the gap a little bit with teams. So they need to get back to where they're not making those kind of mistakes.
Damo, not only did the Eagles get the win, they got a little help yesterday. Giants losing, the Vikings, who were the only other team with one loss in the NFL, also going down. The fact that they rallied to get the win today against the Colts, where does that leave them for the season? Well, you look at the rest of the games and the matchups and the strength of schedule, whatever else. But with 10 games in, they're 9-1. There's no one else within 2 games of them right now. How good position are the Eagles in for the rest of this season, heading on into the postseason?
Well, I mean, the Vikings lose. I mean, ironically, you would think you'd want Dallas to lose, but I mean, for that home field advantage, it helped to have Minnesota get blown out.
Oh yeah.
It's going to come down to those 2 Giants games and the Cowboys game. I don't know that they're going to. I mean, they're going to lose again at least once, and then what? I don't know what's. Then Nick will play it by ear when he gets to the last 2 games of the season, as far as whether he needs to play his starters or not. But right now I don't see him collapsing, but I also don't see him sweeping the Giants. I think a split might be the best you could hope for in those 2 games, because Saquon's a big ask to try to stop him in 2 games. So, but still, I mean, I think this team's going to end up with home field advantage, and that's going to be huge for them going into the playoffs.
I'm good with it, man. I'm good with it. I just think that from this point, do you think that Howard just went out and got Linville Joseph, got Ndamukong Suh? Is there any way that you think that they could do anything to bolster their special teams? They're just a non-factor. They didn't hurt you yesterday, but they didn't,
almost.
Almost. But they didn't do anything to try to beat you either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that long punt return that the Colts had, 19 yards late in the game, kind of shortened the field for them. You just can't have that. I mean, I hate to say, I hate to predict anybody's firing, but I mean, Michael Clay is on thin ice. If there's going to be a change made next year, I think, that's probably going to be it. I thought, at the trade deadline, that would be where they might go, that they would look for a guy like Chris Maragos, that kind of player that could be a difference maker right away on your special teams. They didn't do that. I don't know if it's because they just didn't think there was anybody out there, or because they feel they've got enough here. I'd hate to see them get to the playoffs, have the home field advantage, and then lose a game because of their special teams. I mean, that would be about as bad as disheartening as it could get.
Are you guys telling me that you didn't buy Darren Sproles with Kay Adams last week, saying, hey, if they need me to come in and catch a couple punts, I could still do that, even though it's been like 5 years since Darren was healthy enough to play every single game and be a major factor. With the way Cubbies played, maybe it's not as outrageous as it sounds, but
right.
You weren't buying what Darren Sproles was selling, huh, Damo?
Well, I mean, I don't think their problem is Covey as much as it is the 11 guys that are surrounding him when he touches the ball. I mean, granted, he's got to make some people miss, but there's, the blocking is never there. They're making too many mistakes with their, on some of their coverage. So there's just, I don't know what's going on there. Special teams is hard to decipher what's wrong unless you're really paying really close attention, and not many people do.
All right, Damo, last thing. Let's jettison ahead to next Sunday night. The Packers come to town, and 2 weeks ago they got a nice win against the Cowboys, and maybe Aaron Rodgers isn't dead yet, and then they got picked apart on Thursday night by the Titans, and the Tennessee was able to run the ball with King Henry right down their throats. There are rumors starting that maybe they'll look at putting Love in at quarterback. I don't buy that for a millisecond. If Aaron Rodgers is upright, he's going to continue to be their quarterback. What kind of a Packer team comes in to take on the Eagles next Sunday?
I didn't think they played all that badly against Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is a really good team. That defense is that's a game to watch out for when the Eagles play them. That defense hurts people. It's physical. It's got Vrabel's persona, his personality. So, I mean, that's a game they're going to have to be very careful of. But I think Rodgers is starting to get some chemistry with that rookie wide receiver. AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are they're a tough out. I mean,
yeah, they are.
For a defense that's had some problems with the run. I mean, that's going to be another challenge next week. If they don't grab the lead early, Green Bay is going to just try to keep pounding it and dinking and dunking. So it's not going to be an easy game. For them, I'm glad it's here, but I don't think it'll be a blowout. And I think the Packers aren't. I wouldn't stick a fork in them as far as a team that's capable of beating a good team on a particular night.
And that's what we're looking at next Sunday night. Damo, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on board today. We'll be back in touch soon enough and get you right back up here again on Birds 365. Thanks, bud.
Take care, guys.
Paul Domowitz
appreciate it.
Always has the quality Hawaiian shirt collection ready to rock and roll for us. And I got a couple of nice Hawaiian shirts. I can't wear them because we got the green screen, but we make the most out.
We might be able to wear them when we go down to Arizona.
Oh, you're thinking Joe Krause will be shelling out for us to do live shows from the Super Bowl? Really? You got a better source than I do, Barry? I have gotten no whiff of that so far. We only hope that that's the case. We'll tell them
we'll go. We'll all get in one of bed and breakfasts and have a. Just it'll almost be like a frat boy party. Be all the JAKIB media in just one house.
Oh, by the way, if we are going, which I would say the percentage chance of right now is pretty small. Oh, there'll be a green screen up for us to put the Ocean's insignia over our shoulder. I guarantee you we make that happen. If we're going to Arizona, somebody's going to put the bill, and it'll be our good friends at the Ocean's Casino. All right, he's Barrett Brooks. I'm Jody McDonald. We got plenty of time left. Today was a tough day to get people to join the show, and that's why we love Damo, because he's as easily accessible as he is and always says yes when we ask. Everybody else is coming back from the game, Indianapolis. I got more love to Jody, but ... turn down for today's show. So Barrett and I are going to chop it up ourselves. If you want to make a good point on the stream, I know Barrett uses the stream a little bit more on the Sports Take show.
You're not liking Covey right now, And I remember I got sent to the firing squad because I didn't want Covey. I didn't think Covey was a NFL return man, and everybody, I told you he's gonna make the team. He made the team. That doesn't necessarily make it good. I just didn't think he would have enough juice to play at this level, man. And I hate to be right sometimes, man, but I just don't think at this point he's even though he's not getting blocked for either.
Right. Damo's point is legit. Yeah. It's a combined the lack of ability to make plays on special teams for the Eagles on their punt return is a combination effort.
Yep.
Covey doesn't make anybody miss. And, oh, by the way, he's always got three people that he's got to make miss because he gets no blocking whatsoever in front of him. So it's pretty much a team failure. One of the things we like about the Eagles is they play as a team, both good and bad, on the punt return team. Oh, no, that's inability across the board, not just the guy who's catching the football. All right, he's Barrett Brooks. I'm Jody McDonald. Barrett's in for John McMullen today. We'll come back. We still got an hour to go to talk about the Eagles' hard-tested, clutch, got it done late when it matters most, but not awe-inspiring win. We'll talk about it here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pond Lehocky, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Appreciate you streaming into a victorious Monday, Birds 365, because Eagles were a winner yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts, scoring with less than a minute to go up 17-16, getting the defensive stand. Well, I don't know if I would call it a stand, but big defensive play, sack from Brandon Graham late.
That was a stand?
Yeah, it was. I guess they were a little short on time when they completed the pass. I think it was about 14 yards to Pierce that got it out close to the 40-yard line. I got to admit, I was still a little bit nervous. I felt good about their chances, but I wasn't already chalking it up as a W. But Brandon Graham with a big late sack helped to cement the game away, and Eagles walk away with a win. As you heard me, you guys heard me say, love Paul Domwich. He's been one of our stalwart guests since we started Birds 365 a year and change ago. But I gotta say, I don't know that I've ever disagreed with Damo more than with something that he said today.
What's that?
The Eagles have a couple of good pass catching running backs. They've done a pretty good job of hiding it to me. Yes, Miles Sanders was very good as a rookie. Barrett, we're 2.5 years removed from when Miles Sanders was a rookie. Miles has not been a great pass-catching back in any season since. And Jay made a real nice play coming back to the football, read it perfectly, drew the penalty. It was an easy penalty for the referees to call since he basically got tackled on the play. And I do want to give Miles credit for that. It's not going to go down in the stats as a reception, but it was a damn important play in the game. But Miles isn't a good pass-catching back. And just me personally, I don't count what Kenny Gainwell did at Memphis as making him a good pass-catching back for the Eagles. And last year, they threw it to him more than they have this year, but it wasn't like he was some kind of superior back. You got guys in the league who that's their forte, coming out of the backfield, catching passes. Do you think of Kenny Gainwell in that fashion, that he's a weapon out of the backfield, catching the ball for the Birds?
I think that was their intention when they drafted him.
Exactly, intention when he came out of Memphis. Intention doesn't count as production.
Right, and I don't think that they've really had to do that this year with the production you've had at Dallas Goedert. You didn't need him. I mean, the tight end's always a quarterback's best friend. You look at all the great quarterbacks that, throughout the ages. You had a great tight end that was paired up with him. I think if you look at it, who's the Green Bay is probably the only what's his name? Probably the only guy that doesn't. A-Rod's the only guy that doesn't have a great tight end that he can go to. but everybody else did. I mean, even Brett Favre had Chewy. Mark Tremor. You look back.
Tunyon's not a bad player. They better keep their eye on Tunyon next week.
Yeah, but they don't use him in the capacity that Brady played with Gronk, or all those great teams that have great quarterbacks had a tight end that they could throw to, and which helped them out. Tight ends is a safety blanket. It's his best friend. Even Troy Aikman had a great tight end that he could throw to.
Oh yeah.
You just need that great tight end, and we have it here. But it just so happens our all-star is out right now.
Quick question.
Somebody's got to get it going. Stoll's got to get it going. Calcaterra, whoever, Tyree Jackson. One of those guys got to become that safety blanket for that Hurts can rely in and say, all right, I can get it to him at all times.
I think this is just me. I think it's going to be more A.J. Brown, more Devontae Smith. And he threw a lot to Devontae.
That wouldn't be bad.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. Quez made the big play on the touchdown, so give him credit for that. And Zach Pascal with a good grab yesterday.
He could be that safety blanket for for Hurts also.
He could, but I just don't think it's going to be guys out of the backfield. Quickie quiz for Barrett Brooks.
All right.
10 games Philadelphia Eagles have played so far this year. How many catches do you think Kenny Gainwell has?
I'm going to say 8.
9.
He has 9?
9 catches in 8 games. Ooh, there's a weapon you need to tap into. All of 50 yards. So that's slightly above 5 yards per catch. Yeah, that's a guy whose numbers you want to increase and get him the ball that much more. He's had a lousy year for the Eagles. Yesterday, got Miles off the field. They gave it to Boston Scott. They were ready to turn to him before they worked Kenny Gainwell.
Well, Scott's a good player. We kind of downplayed Scott's ability to play the running back position. They like him in the red zone. He was their red zone / back that they use on goal line situations. He has been that guy for them. I just need to see what they have going as far as trust, if they are to put those guys out there in the slot, or maybe give them an opportunity to be run Texas route. Texas route, number a little angle route in the middle of the field. They go out the backfield, go past the line of scrimmage, and then turn right back around, make himself available to a quarterback. That could be a dangerous weapon for them going forward, because once you make that little angle route, you make yourself available for Hurts right then and there. They can't really defend that because they're going to have somebody eyeing Hurts, number one, but then everybody else is in coverage. And when you sneak them up under like that, I really believe that they could use that. I don't know if that Hurts necessarily trust those guys doing it. That's the big thing. Do they trust him to do that?
But I'll give Jalen a ton of credit here. It seems to me like he trusts everybody. At no point do I ever say after a play's been called and he runs it that he looks around and or shakes his head and or second. No, he just has faith in himself and his teammates, in his coaches and the like. I don't get that feeling because not every quarterback is like that. A whole bunch of quarterbacks that have been very good in this league are ready, willing, and able, including the one that's coming in Sunday night.
Absolutely.
He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not afraid to show his emotions and or second guessing on the field. I
throw you under the bus
from Hurts.
He'll throw you under the bus in a minute, won't he? That's crazy. But you know what? You'll see that he's so good that players are going to play for him just because he's so good and that he's he's got that Hall of Fame potential. People want to play for Jalen Hurts because of who he is as a man. People want to play for Jalen Hurts because they know he's going to put the work in that nobody else is. People want to work and play for Jalen Hurts because he treats those guys respectively. And, he won't throw you under the bus. That's one of the key traits that he has. He will put everything on his shoulders like he did yesterday. And that's the unique quality that he gives that a lot of players don't have. He knows that, he's looked up to as a leader. And he's taken that role ever since he got in. Even when Carson was here, he had that role on the team.
as you mentioned, he's almost got 2 full years as the starting quarterback for the Eagles now. A month at the end of the season, 2 years ago, all last year, and now 10 games into the season. So he's almost been the quarterback of the Eagles for 2 full seasons. You're right. He's not one guy can I remember him unfairly calling out, or to use your phrase, throwing under the bus, which we all use these days, and we know exactly what it means. Hadn't done it once.
Nope.
Has he ever second guessed a teammate and the like? And that's the reason why they're all willing to do what you're saying, which is they'll go to war for this guy because
coach.
And you're right, coaches either. I should have included that. He just backs his teammates to the max, which is exactly what you're hoping to get out of your quarterback. All right, Barrett, one of the things I always love doing when we get you on is talk a little bit more extensively about the offensive line, because that's your bailiwick. I got to be honest, as I'm sitting here in my man cave yesterday watching the game, I was surprised that the Eagles were getting beat at the point of attack. There were a lot of plays yesterday where their defensive line with kind of no-name guys. I know when Ngakoue got the one big sack, but that was just a poorly designed play where Miles Sanders is the last line of defense. You keep it back in the block, that's a good thing. If they're chipping somebody after the fact, second man in, and Ngakoue had solo man-to-man, only Miles Sanders home to try and block him, and Jalen got blindsided on that one and coughed the football up. But I'm not even referring to that. I'm talking about mano a mano, our offensive line against the defensive line. They lost the point of attack a bunch of plays yesterday. When they needed it most in the fourth quarter, they won those offensive line battles. But did you agree with me that the offensive line yesterday in its entirety, the entire 60 minutes, that was not the Eagles' best offensive line game of the year?
I will say that, and I'll double down on that. Those guys up front, like DeForest Buckner, DeForest is a good player, but he was almost unblockable yesterday. He played at a high level yesterday. He kind of surprised me. Stewart played well at the point of attack. They weren't just moving those guys out of the way. They played well up front. What's the strength? Their defense is pretty good. And a guy, probably the second best linebacker this team has played this year. Of course, the kid from Dallas being number one. But Zaire Franklin is a man. Zaire Franklin was all over that field. He was playing at an all-pro level. That's why I think that they're able to go forward right now without Shaq Leonard being on the field.
Right.
This guy, he's playing at an all-world type of level. And he plays well with those guys up front, man. And the way they played that defense, and, you got to give it to Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley called a pretty good defense against this team. He just had a special player in Hurts to beat him. But, yeah, man, I mean, I like the way they play. Stephon Gilmore, I would have thought that they would have tried to put him on A.J. man-to-man, and they did a lot of the times. And, that was a battle. That was a class of Titans right there. But for the most part, they used Rodney McLeod, former Eagle, in the box a lot. And he came and performed. They brought guys up, filled gaps with linebackers and safeties. They had a great game plan going in. And so it wasn't just the offensive line. It was also the others that had to block also. And that means the tight ends had to be involved in it. A lot of the times, when you put a tight end one-on-one with an offensive lineman, I can't see a tight end and a defensive end going one-on-one and the tight end really winning. And we didn't win a lot of those battles, which made it look like the offensive line wasn't playing well. But as a whole, it was going back and forth. Their best against our best, and we won the game. But that battle was it was not lopsided at all. It was not lopsided. Those guys came to play up front, and I think they really thought that they're just as good as our offensive line. In the
Franklin yesterday had 12 tackles. That's a lot of tackles.
He was everywhere.
He was all over the field. You're
caused
right.
that fumble.
I thought the drop off when Leonard went out was going to be pretty precipitous.
Yes.
Defense is pretty good.
Yep.
They've had good games before. Most of the times when they've come up short, like they did yesterday, was because of offense. And yesterday they go right down the field, scored their first possession, and then 3 field goals, including one missed one. I had the feel that was the first time I felt good about the Eagles' chances in the second half when the kid missed the 50-yard field goal. I said, all right, that's the first time the Eagles have actually gotten a stop when the team has gotten into their own end. And oh, by the way, they had a little bit closer. I think that was the Milton Williams sack possession.
Yep.
They had the 2-yard loss, or maybe it was a 4-yard loss on the Taylor run by Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That hell of a play, getting a safety into the backfield for a tackle for loss, and then they followed that up with the Milton snap.
And he came and made a play. That kid right there is going to make a whole lot of money at the end of this season, leading the NFL in INTs, and come up making plays like that. He's going to be one of those guys that, you're going to talk about those huge contracts. And for him to go and change positions entirely, he was a slot corner. They made a safety. That's crazy.
I don't think you and I have had this conversation. Oh, John and I have had it several times, and I'm admitting that I'm surprised that Howie Roseman hasn't been able to jump in to the action lane on this one. Not faulting him, but I'm just judging by his former performances as to what you think he's going to try and do again. The Eagles on defense have a ton of free agents at the end of this year. I just start ripping them off to you. Hargrave and Fletcher and Edwards and White and Bradbury and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That basically you go through the entire defense and everybody's Epps. Oh, I can't forget Epps is also a free agent. Their whole team is a free agent on defense. This side of Big Play Slay and Son Reddick and Josh Sweat. That's it. There's your starters. All the other guys are free agents.
Yep.
If Howie called you, hey, Big B, I need some advice here. Assuming that they're going to sign market value contracts, not Eagle hometown discounts, not, oh my God, you got to pay through the roof because you desperately have to keep them here. Assuming they're all considered market value contracts, not an overpay, not an underpay. Who's your priority? Who's the guy that you want to hear within the next week? Howie Roseman has come to an agreement with an extension on this guy because the Eagles consider him an important part of their core.
That's tough, man, because it's essentially 3 guys that I feel as though they have to be here. One being Javon Hargrave. We need him to be here. But even more than him, I would say Marcus Epps is a must sign because you can probably get him at fair market value. But the biggest piece that I really think needs to be in an Eagles uniform and be the guy that you cannot let go into the market will probably be TJ Edwards. Wow. He's that cog that makes that whole machine run. He is the spearhead of that defense because, number one, they call everything through him. Number two, he's one of the few players that played all of the snaps.
Oh, man. Every single snap.
All of the snaps. So I think he's a must-have. I would go him.
Yesterday, Eagle players who played 100% of the snaps. Isaac, Mailata, Dickerson, Johnson, Hurts, Kelsey, the entire offensive line and the quarterback played 100% of the snaps.
Yep.
On defense, Epps, Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay played 100% of the snaps. That Jaker, TJ Edwards, only played 97% of the snaps, which means he came off the field for either 1 or 2 plays. That's it. Otherwise, he was out there every single play. And linebackers, that just doesn't happen. Exactly. All right, DBs, they're out there every single play. That's what they do. They don't swap out their offensive line. There's no changing. Barrett knows that. He used to play 100% of the snaps on many a game during his career. There are positions that lend themselves to substitutions and some that don't. And linebacker is one you will see subs from time to time. 97% of the snaps Edwards was out there yesterday.
And he's just such a player, man. It wasn't until last year that they really saw how good this kid is. I mean, I think he had a coming out party after the Detroit game of last year. He activated the linebackers from the linebacker position. He showed guys how to play the linebacker position. It wasn't until he started playing that Davion Taylor started playing a little bit also. But it was more so like teams would double team the D lineman and double team all the way back to the linebackers because the linebackers would just be sitting there. What TJ Edwards did was when he saw the double team, he would run downhill, knock the double team off so at least one of them could play. You know, you can't have one guy get blown back like that because you eventually take us both off the run key because once they drive you back into my lap, I can't get off either way because wherever side I pick, I'll be wrong. But if I go down and hit the double team and make one of those linebackers come off on me, now you have a shot, one-on-one block that you can go in and now make a play on a running back that's going downhill. You can't do it when you got a double team because it doubles the guy back too far. You got to make a decision fast, and then that's when things really started happening for this defense when he started playing at that high level.
He did. He's turned it up. He's been a major cog to the Eagles' defense this season. And remember, undrafted free agent. The entire National Football League, including the Philadelphia Eagles, mind you, passed on this guy in the draft coming out of Wisconsin.
He ran a slow time, but sometimes you got to look at the optics. You got to look at what this kid is doing out on the field. He's been one of the top linebackers when he was at Wisconsin when he was a rookie. I mean, when he was in school, he played so good when he was in him. It was him. It was T.J. Watts. They controlled everything for that Wisconsin defense, which was a good defense. Both of those guys really ran shop over everybody that they played against. So the optics, he could play. The 40 time, he could not.
That's why, we have fun with it whenever it comes up. The whole draft process and evaluating talent and how much the combine factors in. And this is what I hate, the stopwatch. Oh, the stopwatch can dictate too many things. How about you look at the tape? How about you go back and watch what the guy did in actual games where TJ Edwards was a beast at Wisconsin, but God forbid he run a slow time in Indianapolis.
My guy, he was a workout warrior. You know, Mike Mamula got drafted to me. It was Mike Mamula's the first round, and me and Bobby Taylor in the second round. Mumu went to the combine and ripped the combine up, tore it apart, and they drafted him the first pick. It was Ray Rhodes and the owner's first pick. The first guy they ever drafted was Mike Mamula. I was the first offensive lineman drafted by Mr. Lurie. You know, Bobby Taylor, the first DB drafted. I was the third player he ever drafted, you know. So sometimes a workout warrior, you know, and Mike had a great career, you know, and he had a pretty solid career.
Solid. I wouldn't say great. I'd say solid.
Yeah, solid career.
An overly critiqued career.
And that's it right there.
A solid career.
Exactly. You know, once you're the first pick, your expectations to play are it'll kill you sometimes, you know. So I'm not glad that I wish I would have gotten drafted in the first round. I'd have got a little more leeway.
No, you would have got a little more money, as a matter of fact.
More money, a little more leeway. But since I was a second round pick, I still felt as though I had to show people that I should have been a first round pick. So that's why I played as hard as I played, because I thought I should have been a first round pick, but they picked me in the second round.
All right, I can't believe I never asked you this, and if I did and I forgot, I'll apologize in advance. Your 2 40s in Indy, what were your times? Did you run faster in the second than the first? What were the 2 times you ran in Indy?
I ran a 5.04.
5.04.
And a 5.08.
With the 04 first?
Yes.
Okay. That doesn't matter, but some teams would go, oh, he went out and really showed us with the second one. Doesn't matter if you're a 5. You were a 5 guy, and it got you drafted in the second round, which is
right. But when I ran at college, I mean, when I ran at my college, you know, when we had our had the NFL workouts at our college, you know, I ran a 4.98.
Oh, you did? You went sub 5.
Yep. Yeah, I ran a 4.98. But you always test like that because up in Indy is electronic, and it's harder to run electronic than it is to run with a stopwatch. So it was tough. It was tough.
And it got you into the league. He is Barrett Brooks, filling in for John McMullen here today on Birds 365. J-Mac will be back tomorrow. He's coming back from Indianapolis today. A couple more things I want to get in with Barrett, including Nick Sirianni's going to speak again. He did after last night's game. Barrett got a chance to see it because he was on the post-game show on NBC Sports Philly. You could see the emotions in Nick Sirianni. Can he, like his quarterback, just put it behind him on a drop of a dime? Jalen Hurts is amazing in the way that he can do that. Nick Sirianni has to be able to do that here for this upcoming week against the Packers. And I want to jump around the league with Barrett. A couple of key games played after and or at the same time that will have an impact on the Eagles season around the NFL. So he's still got 40 minutes to go here on this Monday victorious edition of Birds 365. Stick around.
Don't wait until after Thanksgiving for leftovers. It's the new leftover sales event at Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downtown. Jeff must get rid of hundreds of new 2022 vehicles on the lot. Rams, Grand Cherokees, Wranglers. Jeff has them all for less. Jeff has reduced prices and payments to the lowest they've been all year. And Jeff knocks down high interest rates. Save thousands more than anywhere else. Plus, get more for any trade or lease return. You always win at Jeff's. Great selection, best price. Hurry in now. Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downtown. Nobody treats you better. Black Friday sales event.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
At Salus University, our graduates are among the most highly trained in their profession because of our unique emphasis on research, interprofessional collaboration, and early clinical exposure. Learn more about our programs at salus.edu.
For the weekend of the pool with us here on Birds 365 as we recap a victorious Monday after the Eagles come from behind to beat the Colts 17-16 yesterday to get the 9-1 on the season. Hey, whether you've been with us since day one and this is the 409th edition of Birds 365 you're watching, or if you're first time streaming guy, hit that like button, like, share, and subscribe. We need help with our algorithm, or so I'm told. So thank you all for streaming in today. We got a nice number of people jumping in, over 500 streamed in right now, talking about the Eagles win against the Colts. Come from behind, last possession, Jalen Hurts, the Red Sea parted up the middle, and he took a quarterback sneak into the end zone, quarterback draw for the Eagles W. And when the game was over, after they were able to stop the Colts and turn them over on downs, you saw Nick Sirianni get on the bench and scream at the Eagle fans who were behind the Eagle bench, maybe a couple of the Colts fans while he was at it as well. Pretty emotional day for Nick Sirianni. He downplayed it, Barrett, before the game, that I was there and it's nice to be nice to go back. But he did not let on how much this game meant to him. At least in my opinion, I don't think he did. He's as tight as he is with Frank Reich. You certainly know that. He's talked about it many a time since he's taken over as the coach for the Eagles. The coach wanted this one badly yesterday, Barrett.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. You could tell by the emotion of after the game. I don't know if you watched after the game, but he talked about it. He said, yeah, I mean, they let his best friend go. You know what I'm saying? The guy that he looked up to. He equated, Frank Reich to, he said, as far as individuals that influenced his life, he said his parents, his pops, and he had Frank Reich right up there with him as far as the people that influenced him, who he is as a man. So, yeah, he was emotional about it, at the end of the game. And we had, like I said, our post-game show, Ruben, Frank, and Jaws kind of downplayed and said, no, he just wanted to win. And I'm like, no. I said there's a lot to do. It had a lot to do with, number one, he coached there 2 years prior. But number two, they let one of the guys that, directly influenced his life go. And you can't tell me that Frank Reich wasn't a part of that game planning system and telling everything that he needed to know about how they could win this game. You know what I'm saying? You could tell in the emotion that he displayed afterwards, just going to reaffirm what I was thinking. Yeah, he wanted to win one for the Kipper. He wanted to, yes. And he wanted to put it on him, yep.
We'll never know, because Sirianni will never tell us, and I doubt Reich will ever tell us, as to how much information was shared between those two guys this week. I'd have
give up everything. I'd have give all tape. I'd have told him everything he wanted to know.
Here's where I'm going to come up short of 100%. There are a whole bunch of coaches on the Indianapolis coaching staff that Frank Reich had his hand in on hiring. So the organization, Jim Irsay, told him, your services are no longer needed. I don't think he cares whit one about Jeff Saturday and his success going forward. Reich doesn't care a little bit. But There were a whole bunch of guys on that staff that were left behind that were overlooked to take Reich's place that he probably felt pretty bad for. And if you're just emptying the bucket to give the Eagles every piece of information you have, you are spitting in the eye of guys who were your former compatriots on your staff that you had as something not. So I don't know that it was completely 100%. Do I think he gave him enough to help the Eagles win that game yesterday? Yeah, I do. But I don't think it was 100% because I think Reich's emotions had to be at least a little split because a couple of guys are suffering that he left behind.
Jody, I'd have given him everything. I'd have gave him.
You're sticking to 100%, huh, Barry?
I'd have gave him mom's social security number. Everything, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'd have gave him anything he wanted to know, man. Because that was unceremoniously letting the guy go like that. And then number two, I mean, that's a slap in the face when you're a coach there. Scotty Montgomery, really good friend of mine. I played with him while I had a little short stint in Denver. Scotty, he's the running back coach there. Has so much coaching experience, like maybe 10, 15 years of coaching experience, gets slapped in the face. Kevin Mawai, a Hall of Famer coaching, got slapped in the face, didn't even get a consideration. Bradley.
Let me ask you this question. Is Frank Reich not as big a slap? There are different slaps. There's some where it comes from back here in Hohokus and it comes all the way through the door. Slaps like this. Isn't Frank Reich slapping your boy in the face when he said, here, let me give you every piece of information about what the Colts running back are going to try and do against an opponent like the Eagles?
I'm going to tell you this. Those coaches like Scotty Montgomery, Reggie Wayne, Mawai, all those guys are like, man, give them whatever they want, man, because this organization did me dirty also. Bradley, they did me dirty. All those people in that organization are pissed off. You know what I'm saying? They're pissed off also. So they wouldn't mind getting anything that, give them everything that it could.
So you think basically you think the Colts are dead in the water, that there's a mutiny on that coaching staff, that they're so ticked off that Jeff Saturday comes out of left field to come in and take over the team, and none of those guys were really even considered. You think they're all just going through the motions at best right now?
They're not going to go through the motions because you're still interviewing for 31 other teams. You're still a professional. You still want to make sure that, your light is shining. And you still coach the hell out of the players that you're coaching. Those players need to know that you're fully invested in it, in order to get the optimum output out of them. So you got to go on thinking, hey, I don't care who's coaching, who's the head coach, but I know my guys better be on point because there are going to be other teams looking to come pick me up, and they're going to see how I responded to this and see how my guys responded to it, and they played better, you know what I'm saying, even when I got screwed. So
who's the one guy who kind of surprised me, Barrett, in that vein? Reggie Wayne. Yeah. Because they've been approaching him for the last couple of years to come in and coach up the wide receivers. And Wayne had turned him down. He had said, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. And finally this past year, Frank Reich talked him into it and said, come on, Red, we could really use you. We know how great a wide receiver you were. You are an Indianapolis Colt. Come on, we need you. And he finally relented and said, all right, I'll come in and coach the wide receivers. And then they fired the guy who talked him into it.
Right.
I thought there was a good chance that Reggie Wayne was going, see ya, and just turn around and packing up and going home and saying, I didn't need this job to begin with. I did it as a favor to my friend Frank Reich, and I did it because I'm loyal to the Indianapolis Colts. And here's what the Indianapolis Colts told me. Not even considered to be the new head coaching job. See you later. Bye, guys. I thought there was a chance that happened, but maybe Reggie's in the mode that you just described. Now that he's into coaching, he likes the coaching, and he wants to be considered as a guy who can coach elsewhere if that's the way the chips shake out over the offseason.
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely what's going on. I mean, these guys, man, these guys work hard. They work really hard, and they want to be respected. And to sit back and have a coach, you're not even getting, an opportunity to interview for the position. I mean, that's a real slap in the face. A real slap in the face.
Fair enough.
And Saturday knows it too. Saturday understands it also.
By the way, Eagles won the game. Saturday has not done a terrible job since he's taken over. They win last week. Yeah, they beat a bad Raiders squad. No question. But they had the Eagles down. They couldn't keep them down. Whatever he's done, he has kept that coaching staff together, even though you say that there's probably some really raw guys still in there for the way that it all shook out. I think you have to give Saturday at least some credit. I don't know how good a coach he's going to be. I don't even know if this is what he wants to do and stick around and be their coach in the long term. I think the only thing that's a lock is he's the coach for the rest of this season. But he's done a nice job at keeping that staff together, and they almost beat the Eagles yesterday. I give you a game that wasn't almost. The Cowboys just crushed the Vikings yesterday. I did not see that coming. The Cowboys were a favorite in the game in Minnesota. I understood it from an emotional perspective. Cowboys coming off a tough loss, desperately need the game, got beat by Green Bay on the Sunday night as a favorite up in Green Bay. The Vikings may be on an emotional high, go into Buffalo and win, maybe riding a little bit too high. Yeah, there were a couple things that pointed to the fact that the Cowboys could go into Minnesota and beat the Vikings. 40-3. 40-3. I did not see that coming. And I'll tell you what, I was more impressed. The Cowboys put up a 40 spot. I was more impressed with the Cowboys defense. And yeah, their superstar linebacker / defensive end had a phenomenal game. Nobody's ever surprised by that, but everybody else stepped up for them as well. The Vikings are one of the better offenses in the National Football League. They did diddly against that Cowboy defense yesterday. Barrett, is that final Cowboy-Eagles game going to be a shootout down in Dallas, a defensive struggle down in Dallas? What do you make? I know we're still several weeks away before Christmas Eve, But what do you make about the Cowboy-Eagle matchup as of right now?
It'll be a shootout. It'll be a shootout. It'll be one, as you know, that it'll be one for the books, simply because it's a rivalry, and when you go into rivalries like that, you could throw the records out the door. You could throw, everything out there as far as who's the better team, because I've seen teams where I played on where we were by no means anywhere close to the offensive firepower that the Dallas Cowboys had. Well, they had Moose, Irving, Dion, Troy, the best offensive line in the league, and we beat them. And there's times where I've seen a team where, the Eagles are stacked. They have everybody, and Dallas has nobody. Offensive line sucks. Tony Romo sucks. And then, the Eagles got 5. They got everybody, Westbrook, and they end up losing. So you just throw those records out the door, throw talent out the door. Sometimes it's just a good old street fight. And that's what it's going to be versus Dallas, a street fight. It's not going to matter what our record is. It's not going to matter what their record is. They're just going to go out there. They're going to try to whoop our ass, and we're going to try to whoop their ass. It's just going to go back and forth. And it's virtually the war of attrition. Whoever ends up at the end of the game more healthier and ready to make a play is going to win the game, because it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to go down to the wire, especially being in Dallas. And there's going to be some home cooking going on down in Dallas. So, it'll be a street fight. That's football I love to watch right there, street fights like that. Because Dallas is pissed off because we already whooped them.
Barrett laying the groundwork for referee defense, that they'll get home cooking down there in Dallas. They got some home cooking. The Eagles got some good calls going their way yesterday on the road, so you never really know. But I was just shocked at the outcome of that game. Not the fact that the Cowboys won, that it was as non-competitive as it was, which now gives the Eagles a 2-game lead for the best record in the NFC. As a matter of fact, over the Giants. It's 2.5 over both Minnesota and Dallas, because you beat both of those two teams. Yeah, Dallas gets the rematch to get that one even on Christmas Eve. But do you think this is the kind of game where the Vikings take a step backwards? Or is it just like we thought last week when the Eagles got beat? All right, now you got to come out. You got to go beat Indianapolis. They did. They took care of business the way that they wanted to and had to. Same thing for the Vikings, or is this more than just a loss because they got pummeled by 37 points?
That's more than just a loss.
Okay.
That's a good old-fashioned home-baked shellacking type of pie they just ate. That put some serious doubt in that team's mind on how good are they really. That's what that did. I mean, they beat them like they stole something. I feel bad. You know what I mean? It's crazy they allowed them to just run up and down the field on them, do whatever they want to do, and then stop that offense. That offense, Adam Thielen and all those guys, they should be able to play. Cook, all those guys to get beat like that, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I got a buddy, one of my best friends who's a Viking fan, who, when they beat Buffalo last week, he had to text me to make sure that I knew what the Vikings did. What do you think? I'm not paying attention to the biggest game of the week, Buffalo against Minnesota? Of course I said. But he went so far as to say, and Justin Jefferson is going to surpass Jerry Rice as the greatest receiver in the history of the National Football League.
Whoa.
And I said, do you think we're putting a cart in front of the horse here, big guy? Yeah, Jefferson's look great, but we're talking about not only the best receiver in the history of the National Football League. Oh, let me make it a question for you. Who's the greatest football player in the history of the NFL?
Mr. White. Was there any question?
Yeah, there is.
Mr. White, man. Mr. White could do everything well. All right, well, let me change like this. He's the best player I ever played.
Okay, that's fine, and I get it where you come from. You have a very specific prism you're looking through.
Right.
Former NFL lineman. I'm not. I'm just a stupid talk show host. So for me, everybody always talks about the quarterback. Tom Brady's the greatest football player of all time. No, he's not. He's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yes.
Some people say Jim Brown at the running back position. I get it. Whole other game. The game was played differently. The way you won games was different. Jim Brown, you can make the argument, greatest running back of all time. I won't fight you there. But I think the greatest player in the history of the National Football League is Jerry Rice. For one reason and one reason only. And if Justin Jefferson gets me to change my opinion here, so be it. The drop-off from Jerry Rice to the next best wide receiver of all time, who's probably Randy Moss, is greater than the drop-off between Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White and Bruce Smith, Tom Brady and Joe Montana, Tom Brady and the gap between the best wide receiver and the second best wide receiver is greater than the gap between the best positional player at any other position and the number two guy. That's why I say Jerry Rice is the greatest football player of all time.
That's a great way to put that. That's a different way of looking at the whole situation, because the drop off between Mr. White and you're right.
LT was pretty damn good coming off that edge.
Well, he's a linebacker though. Game. I mean, would you call him a linebacker?
Well, here's the question, because John and I get into this all the time. Not so much he and I, but he and people on the stream and his Twitter, whatever else. What's Hassan Reddick?
Right, exactly. Like when you look at
Hassan Reddick is supposedly a linebacker, but he's not. He's a defensive end. You know he's a defensive end. The Eagles know he's a defensive end. He might not be like, I was looking at the number of snaps on the game day log from the Eagles yesterday. They list Hassan Reddick as a linebacker. No, he's not. He's a defensive end. And exactly. Lawrence Taylor might have been a quote unquote linebacker. No, he was an edge guy. He was a defensive end.
And they literally changed how you block offenses because of him. He wrecked shop. They had to change what you do to run your offense, because if you didn't, for a long time, teams tried to say, all right, we can just handle him with a tight end and a running back. No. You got to put an offensive lineman on him, and you got to bring help to that offensive lineman when you put it on him. So they definitely changed how you block schemes as it pertains to Lawrence Taylor. You're right. You're right about it. I never looked at it like that.
Yeah, different way to look at it, and neither one of us is right. Neither one of us is wrong. It's just how you look at it. All right, one other game I wanted to get your feel on, and again, playing at the same time as the Eagles were playing, so you might not have gotten a chance to watch as much of it. I tried to jump around, watch a couple different games. I had the Eagles on tape, so I go back, fast forward, and try and get a bunch of stuff in. But locally, we had the Giants and the Lions here in Philadelphia. Another game I didn't see coming. Thought it would be competitive. Thought it was going to hang in the balance. The Lions just shut down the Giants offense. Now, Giants offense isn't spectacular. It's not like the Viking offense for damn sure. But Saquon Barkley was having a hell of a year, came into the week as the leading rusher in the National Football League. Derrick Henry went by him on Thursday night, but Saquon had the chance to catch up and retake the lead. Not even close. 20 yards rushing for the entire game for Saquon Barkley. How the hell did the Detroit Lions, who the Eagles ran through pretty damn good week one, and a lot of teams have, they were 1-6 at one point. They've now won 3 games in a row, but they shut down Saquon Barkley yesterday. How'd the Lions do that, or how bad did the Giants have to be that they could only open up enough holes for Saquon Barkley to run for 20 yards?
That's incredible, because, you know, where Saquon went, that team went. And I don't know. I mean, I guess Dan Campbell was biting giant kneecaps, bro. That was, I mean, I can't wait to watch that game. I can't wait to evaluate that game, sit down and watch the all 22, because I haven't yet to do that yet. I mean, I had a long weekend this weekend, so I haven't even sat down and watched, you know, our game yet. You know, usually before I get on shows, I sit down and I watch, you know, the film first, so I know what the heck I'm talking about. But this time I wasn't able to do it. You know, I had a long weekend, man. I did actually did the Kansas State or West Virginia game.
Right.
my old alma mater. I called the game for ESPN this weekend, and they used to say, you had to drive all the way from Morgantown back to Pittsburgh to fly out. So it was pretty early in the morning. I had to drive, so I was a little tired, anyways. And I got to work at 10, and needless to say,
so in other words, you're taking a nap between this show and Sports Take this afternoon. You've earned it. You deserved it. And truly appreciate your getting up and watching for me. But when you watch that all 22 tape of the Giants, 15 rushes, 22 yards, the longest run of the day, 15 rushes. The most he gained was 4 yards on one play. That's a pretty damn good defensive effort by the Lions.
What was Daniel Jones' numbers?
Are you ready for this one?
Let me see.
Daniel Jones had to throw it 44 times yesterday.
Wow.
You don't want Daniel Jones throwing the football 44 times. I'm sorry. Who? Never do you want him throwing the football 44 times. Now, he did throw for 341 yards. You should if you throw it 44 times. But he threw 2 picks, which Jones had the longest streak in the NFL of most passes without an interception. He was leading up until yesterday. He threw one early, and he threw another one later in the game. The Giant offense did not move the ball against a Lions defense. And the kid Hutchinson is really coming on. We knew he was going to be a stud when he was picked as high as he was in the draft. He had an interception yesterday. He had 2 guys, defensive linemen, come up with interceptions in the league yesterday. Have you seen the highlight play? And again, know how busy you are. You were doing the Eagles. You do the post-game show, whatever. Did you see the T.J. Watt interception yet?
No, I didn't. Did they win?
Holy mackerel. He just goes up and takes the Joe Burrow pass as a defensive lineman right out of the air. He just goes up and snatches it down. It's an amazing play. You'll see it. Watt and Hutchinson, at least Hutchinson was dropping back. I always roll my eyes when defensive linemen are used in coverage, that they try and catch the other team off guard. You'll never think that he's dropping back coverage. Hutchinson was at least off the line yesterday. T.J. Watt made the interception dead in the middle of the defensive line for the Steelers yesterday. Amazing play. But the Giants got abused yesterday. They've got 2 more games. When I say they, I mean the Eagles against the Giants this year. Giants going to hang in here and continue to be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to catch the Eagles. The final game of the year, I would bet more on it being a game where the Eagles can pull guys off the field rather than have to need a win. But they've got to play the Giants before that. How competitive is that game right now in your eyes?
I mean, anytime you make the Giants do what they don't want to do, and that's throw the ball, you can win, man. And I think that when you look at us, we can now stop the run. So at this point, I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell competing with us. I mean, there's no way. There is no way at this point that I see us even splitting with them. You know what I mean? I can't say
they could split because we saw what happened when they put the JV out for the last game of the year last year.
Right.
Cowboys kind of put a beat down on them. So it may be a split, but because the Eagles don't worry about the
we already locked it up. Yeah, you said we locked it up.
Game. That I think that's a possibility. We got to see. We got to let it play out. But I know I'll be talking about this with John yesterday because John has, on a week in, week out basis, continued to say, yeah, and I don't think the Giants are good. Yeah, and I don't believe what the Giants are doing. Yeah, the Giants are a mirage. Don't worry about what their record is. I've given him more credit than John has, not bending over backwards to say the Eagles should have any fear of the Giants, but I've at least given him some credit. Yeah, it looks like McMullen was right yesterday because you can't get beat at home by the Lions and get an by-the-way touchdown and still lose by double-digit points. That's not a good look, Giant fans. All right, he's Barrett Brooks. I'm Jody McDonald. We'll come back, put a bow on the show. We got 10 minutes left here on Birds 365. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe to us here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365. You got Barrett Brooks in for John McMullen today with me, Jody McDonald. For those of you doing your scheduling this week, Birds 365 will be off on both Thanksgiving and the day after. So we're going to take a little downtime, little holiday time, but we'll be right back at it next Monday after a Sunday nighter against the Packers. We touched on this briefly, Barrett. Aaron Rodgers not having the best of years, admitted himself after the Tennessee game that he missed some throws. We talked about it when Dama was on, and he said he thought that was a good game, competitive game. Yeah, they couldn't stop Derrick Henry, and that's going to be a chore for the Eagles in 2 weeks when they take on the Titans. But first thing first, the Packers. How much fear you got for Green Bay coming to town on Sunday night against the Birds this upcoming weekend?
I don't fear that team, but I do respect who's at the quarterback position. You just let them get a little bit hot with throwing to Christian Watson, and they have the means of being a really good team on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I don't see them. I saw them at first being a good defense, but now that Quay Walker's out, that their rookie linebackers have been really, really good, and Campbell's out. Their outside linebackers out, so that really puts them in a bad predicament. But I respect their offense. I don't respect their defense, which is why I think it should be a great game by the Eagles, being able to do whatever they want to that defense. Right. Offensively, if A-Rod gets it going and he can, hit Alan Lazard or Watson, or even, Sammy Watkins, came out his shell and played a little better. They allow that passing game to get going, then that puts them in a position where they can put A.J. Dillon out there to grind it out, Aaron Jones to grind it out, because those two are really good players. Their running game can be really good.
Jones scares me a little bit coming into next Sunday night. And who'd have thought? Maybe the best, because you mentioned the Packer guys are out, the injuries they're dealing with. Eagles have their fair. I'm not saying, oh, woe is the Packers because of injuries. Eagles have their fair share of injuries too. Who'd have thought that Russell Douglas might be their best defensive player?
Yes.
He's their biggest playmaker. Russell, you couldn't do that when you were here in Philly there, big guy. Why not?
You know, he actually did. When he gave him the opportunity, they did. They just didn't let him play the way he needs to play.
Really? You thought he was underused or improperly used here in Philadelphia?
Yes, I did. I thought Russell Douglas, I thought he could mix it up a little bit if you allowed him to come up and play tighter, man. You couldn't have him off the ball and not being able to reroute people. And that, you remember, that's the way they played defense back then. That picket fence. He's one of those guys that got to get his hands on you early. That way he can reroute you a little bit, slow you down. Right. Then he can keep up with you. If you just have a guy that's going to come right off the ball and he can't reroute him, he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell at doing anything.
So you're saying the former defense coordinator, much like the present defense coordinator, didn't show a whole hell of a lot of flexibility. It's my system, and we're going to play it my way. I don't care what your skill levels are. You're going to do it my way or hit the highway. Well, he hit the highway, and he's pretty damn good in Green Bay, as a matter of fact. Give Russell credit for that. All right, last thing, and again, tapping into your expertise as a former offensive lineman, but we're looking at the other side of the ball. Again, I don't want to do this, but I feel the need that I must. Sorry, Eagle fans, if I incurred the wrath of you, I will. Can Ndamukong Suh and his new running mate, Linval Joseph, be as good next week as they were this week? Because they came out and set the bar pretty damn high. Better than I thought they could come in and do. They're there about 20 minutes, and they step in and start making plays. They had a co-sack. They shared a sack yesterday. I give them credit. I give Gannon credit. I give Rocker credit for getting them up to speed. Their teammates, I saw BG's quote about, hey, I talked to Sue, but by the time we got to game day, I didn't have to tell him anymore. He had everything down, had all the calls down. Is there a emotional lift to jump back into the fray, and is there a chance for a letdown this week coming up against the Packers?
I don't think there's a letdown in their play. You just use them. You use them the way you used them yesterday, and that's first and second down. That's their job, to come in on first and second down and stop the run game. Teams have been successful on this Eagles defense for the past year and a half if you allow them to keep things on time. If you keep the offense on time, that means chunk yardage on first down. What I mean by chunk yardage, like 5 yards to 6 yards on first down. It gets a whole heck of a lot easier on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, as opposed to being 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8. Yeah. And that's what happened yesterday. They didn't allow that Indy, after that first drive, they didn't allow that Indy team to stay on time from a run standpoint. They stop it and get 3 yards on it. Now they got to pass the ball. Now you look at how they passed it. Matty Ice was hosing it. He was still converting first downs, but his arm. But he had to be very, very specific with that arm and make sure he make a play with those guys. But he took advantage of a young guy in Josiah Scott, and he played well, being able to get it out to whoever Josiah Scott was covering. But that just goes to show, that if you can let a team stay on time by allowing production on first down, which was the Achilles heel of this Eagles defense last year and a little part of this year, then you can beat that defense, because now you're not letting them rush the passer like they want to do. They want to get in 3rd and long, so they let them guys up front get out there and mix it up.
And Sue and Linval Joseph both stepped in and contributed week 1, just like they've been here all year. A lot of people deserve credit for that. And Barrett says, don't worry, it can happen again next week. Just ask them to do the same thing. They should be able to do it again. We'll see next Sunday night. All right, Double B, I appreciate your great. Maybe nobody else does, but I appreciate the fact that after doing a game and getting up early and getting on a plane and coming back and doing Eagles post-game show and getting up early for me again. Thank you very much, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Sometimes you got to bring the righty. Had to come in and spell.
We got a big righty to go to the bullpen for. Thanks for jumping in with us today, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Johnny Mack will be back with me tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody, for streaming in today. Keep it here. Later in the day, you got Barrett coming up on Sports Take after a nap. He's going to go take it. There's sports taking, there's nap taking. He's going to get the nap taken in first, but then he'll be up for Sports Take later on. Keep it right here on the JAKIB YouTube channel.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.